this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the HyperX Pulsefire Haste 2 wireless, and I'm here to read you a bedtime story about this mouse, and tell you about why it's fantastic, and talk about the features and things that I like about it. And so I'm going to unbox it and show it off in various different ways, and talk about the highlights and features of it, the specs and what it's like to use, because I've been using it for the last couple of weeks, and I've previously used the original Pulsefire Haste wireless, which you can see on the left here in black, and as you'll see, it's obviously had some significant changes, because it's still a lightweight wireless gaming mouse, but you no longer have those holes. Now this is a fairly capable mouse with some interesting highlights that include up to 26,000 DPI, 1000 Hz polling rate, and obviously some very subtle RGB on just the mouse wheel. You'll see in the box we've got a number of things, including a USB-C charging cable, and it has quite a low profile setup to it, and I'll talk a bit more about this later on because it's pretty low to the desk and it's quite on the small side, but it's also remarkable in that it can get up to about 100 hours of battery life, and that's the claim, and usually those sorts of claims are a bit insane and they never sort of live up to it. It's usually over Bluetooth. So it's worth noting that it has both Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz wireless. And obviously the claims are usually over Bluetooth is where you get the most battery out of it. But my experience has actually been that the battery really lasts on this mouse. I found I rarely had to plug it in. It just keeps going and going. Now in the box, you'll see you get the mouse itself, charging cable, replacement feet. So you've got PTFE feet that you can swap out on the underside for those get worn out. And you also get some grip tape that you'll see applied later on as well. Now, this doesn't have holes in it, but one of the things I did notice is if you flip it over underneath this large sticker on the bottom, you can actually see some perforated holes hidden under there. So they have saved some weight through holes on the bottom. So it's like the outer shell is thin, and then on the inside you sort of have the original mouse, which is interesting because it's obviously still really light, and talk more about that later on, but it doesn't have those holes, so you haven't got to worry about dirt and dust getting in there. It should just last and last over time. Now you have the charging cable, the little extender dock, the USB dongle, and then you plug those all together, and that gives you the range that you need to. And then if you want to, you can just unplug that USB-C cable and plug it into the mouse for charging. I have noticed that the mouse wheel flashes red when it needs charging, so you know when you're running low on battery, which makes it fairly easy. And obviously you can control and adjust all the various settings in HyperX's Ingenuity software in Windows as well. But really easy to plug in. And as I said, I really found I haven't had to. I've had to plug it in once in the whole 2 weeks that I've been using it so far, which is pretty remarkable, and I've come from other mice which have large claims in terms of the battery life and fail to deliver. Whereas this one just keeps going, and I've been using it all day during work and then into the evening editing videos or gaming, and it's just kept going. So it's been remarkable, and considering the size of it, if you just look here compared to my banana, then you'll see just the size and shape of the thing. It's pretty compact. Now it is quite low profile. For me, I prefer a mouse that's a little bit bigger and pushes up to the hand more. But if you have a claw grip or smaller hands, then you'll probably really approve of this mouse because it is a very nice fit. It does have a slight matte finish to it, so it's easy enough to hold on to. But as I said, you've got the grip tape included that I'll show you in a second. But here you can see just sort of the shape and how it fits in the hand. On the underside, you'll see that there's the little dock for the dongle when you need to store it. You also have a button to switch between 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth mode. And you can turn it off unused it while plugged in still as well. So you do have the flexibility to be able to use it in various different ways. Now this is a lightweight mouse coming in at around 61 grams. So it is pretty light compared to a lot of other lightweight mice out there. Not sure it's the lightest I've ever tried, but it is close to it. It is very light and very agile, and it will flick around the desk really easily. So if you're into playing fast-paced shooters and you're worried about sort of an achy wrist from too much gaming, then you shouldn't suffer with any issues here. Now I'll leave a sound test of the switches at the end so you can get an idea of what they're like. But I've found them to be nice and reactive and comfortable. There's no problems there really. They get a nice satisfying click out of them and a good action too. You've got a tiny little DPI switcher at the rear, and you can get up to 26,000 DPI out of it, and you can adjust the levels of that within the Ingenuity software. And there's also an indicator. So when you press that DPI button, it switches between 4 different levels as standard, and the mouse wheel changes color to let you know which one you're in. So red is 400, For example, standard blue is 800, yellow is 1600, and green is 3200. That's the defaults, but obviously you can change those within the settings as well. And then you have the options of turning on to up to 1000 hertz polling rate, which is pretty interesting. Now, I will note also that the wired version apparently has up to 8000 hertz polling rate, which isn't an option on this one, but it is on the wired variant of it. So you do have that as a thought process. And you can see just how it fits in my hand. So I'm a palm grip. I prefer to grip on with my palm, but I found that a bit of my hand is more on the desk than I'd like, and it just sits a little bit too low for me. So if you've got larger hands, you might find it a bit uncomfortable. But if you use a claw grip instead, for example, you probably won't suffer with any issues. And I certainly wouldn't say it's uncomfortable. I do find it's nice and well designed and really good to use. Those side buttons are actually pretty decent as well. I do think they're a little bit too smooth perhaps, but they're fairly easy to access and easy to click, so there's loads of flexibility there. You don't have masses of programmable buttons. Basically, this is a fairly understated and yet capable mouse. It reminds me of the Logitech G Pro X Superlight, although it might be better in some ways. I'm going to do a video to compare it in the near future, and also with a couple of other mice as well. So if you're interested in seeing this against other mice, be sure to subscribe and come back for more. Now, the mouse wheel itself, as you can see, is a little bit of a dust magnet, but it is pretty satisfying. There is no left and right click with it though, so just keep that in mind. There's no variant there. Now, if you do have slippery hands, you might want to add on the grip tape. As I said, the body has actually got a little bit of a matte finish to it anyway, so probably not necessary. And one of the things that I did find about this actually is, weirdly, this grip tape does seem to pick up a little bit of finger oil more than I've seen on other grip tape from other mice. But this is going to vary wildly from person to person. You might not suffer with this issue, but I just think it's worth noting. I've not seen that as much on other mice that I've tested with grip tape on them. But it is fairly easy to apply, and if you do make a mistake, which I did during the process, you can remove it and put it back on again. And obviously it's nice to have this included. It's not an additional purchase, so it's just in the box as standard. And then you get to add a nice little bit of contrast to it, because now you have a mouse that's white and black. So you've got a good bit of variety there happening, which is pretty neat. The other thing about this mouse is it might well be the hidden highlights. So the original Pulsefire Haste wireless actually supported NVIDIA's Reflex low latency technology as well. So you could use the Reflex low latency analyzer. If you have a monitor capable of doing it, you can run that software to see how much system latency you're getting and reduce that from your mouse. I've done a video separately on this, but the original Pulsefire Haste was included in that, so be surprised if the Pulsefire Haste 2 wireless wasn't as well. So there's a lot more to this mouse than meets the eye, and it's also really affordable as well, as is the wired version, which, as I noted, as 8000 hertz polling rate. So that one's particularly interesting if you're not bothered about being wireless. I personally like the freedom of having no wires and being able to throw it about, and the option of both Bluetooth and wireless connectivity via 2.4 gigahertz, which obviously is the lower latency setup and more reliable for gaming purposes. But you can see even when you throw on the grip tape, it only adds a mere few more grams, so it's 65 instead of 61, which is pretty neat. Now stick around for a sound test. Thanks for watching.
You've made it right to the end of the video, you brilliant legend you. If you've enjoyed it, click that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and drop me a comment down below if you've got any questions. If you really enjoyed it, consider joining the channel and see the benefits of doing so. Check out these other videos, you might well find them interesting or useful, and most importantly, have a great life.